The law of the sea and the sacred vessel. Analysis of commercial remedy through Admiralty jurisdiction. 1. The nature of the vessel and the jurisdiction of birth. In the traditions of maritime jurisprudence, a human being is presumed to be a vessel upon birth. The act of baptism, under ecclesiastical practice, is allegorically framed as the christening of a ship, a ritual that grants both name and blessing, symbolically preparing the individual to traverse the high seas of commerce. The water involved in the ritual is not merely sacramental, it is juridical, marking the transition of the being into a legal entity subject to maritime, admiralty, law. Footnote: This section introduces the symbolic and legal construct of the human being as a commercial vessel subject to admiralty law from birth. 2. Redemption in the Court of Admiralty as a remedy. The speaker argues that most individuals fail to grasp the significance of admiralty jurisdiction, instead erroneously assuming that state or religious courts provide sufficient remedy. The fundamental principle here is that remedy for commercial injury or fraud lies exclusively within the Federal Admiralty Court. These courts, rooted in equity, are described as the only legitimate judicial forums for claims arising from commercial harm against the vessel, individual. Footnote: Admiralty courts, not state or religious tribunals, offer the proper jurisdiction for commercial remedy and equity-based claims. 3. The two banking systems, just commerce and Jezebel commerce. A dichotomy is drawn between the just commercial banking system and the Jezebel commercial system. The former adheres to constitutional protections, equitable remedy, and voluntary exchange of credit. The latter, labeled as fraudulent, operates through deception, rogue statutes, and corporate courts. The speaker likens the Jezebel system to piracy, accusing it of controlling individuals via ignorance of contract law, hidden terms, and unlawful enforcement. Footnote: The division between equitable, constitutional commerce and predatory Jezebel commerce forms the basis for jurisdictional conflict. 4. Words as weapons, the power of definitions in law. According to the speaker, legal remedy begins with linguistic mastery. Many fall prey to commercial fraud due to ignorance of legal definitions. The manipulation of terms, e.g., the contraction of a lien into alien creates confusion that fuels unauthorized contract enforcement. A central remedy lies in reclaiming word usage and redefining one's standing through properly executed legal instruments. Footnote: Misuse and manipulation of legal terminology enable systemic fraud. Accurate word usage is vital for remedy. 5. Contracts in fraud and the doctrine of unconscionability. Licenses and certificates, including driver's licenses, marriage licenses, and property titles, are described as fraudulent contracts lacking full disclosure. The state is accused of inserting itself as a third-party beneficiary without informed consent. Such contracts, drafted and enforced under false pretenses, are said to be unconscionable and voidable through properly filed admiralty actions and perfected liens. Footnote: Many state-issued documents operate as fraudulent third-party contracts, voidable under equity and admiralty principles. 6. The process of perfecting a claim in admiralty. A perfected admiralty lien, supported by a life estate deed and baptismal certificate, is positioned as the foundation for reclaiming one's vessel and asserting standing in commerce. The recording of these instruments in the county, specifically under miscellaneous records, is presented as the procedural gateway to federal admiralty remedy. The lien must specify damages, claims, and rights under the Constitution and the law of the sea. Footnote: Perfecting an admiralty lien and life estate deed restores control over one's legal vessel and enables commercial remedy. 7. Jurisdictional transformation, from black robe to white robe. Admiralty courts are distinguished by their equity nature, requiring the presiding judge to abandon their black robe, symbolizing death, in favor of a white robe, symbolizing life and equity. In this setting, The judge serves as a neutral facilitator and the individual appears as the rightful admiral of their own court, with standing derived from properly perfected documents. Footnote: True Admiralty jurisdiction transforms the court environment, requiring symbolic and procedural adjustments to reflect equity. 8. The role of the U.S. Marshal in the Treasury and remedy. The Speaker alleges that federal authorities, including the U.S. Marshal Service, acknowledge properly filed Admiralty claims and can facilitate remedy if presented with perfected documentation. The Department of the Treasury and Bureau of Fiscal Services are positioned as the institutions responsible for honoring debt obligations when proof of ownership and legal standing is properly recorded and delivered. Footnote: Federal institutions may be compelled to honor debt obligations under Admiralty upon proper filing and perfected legal standing. 9. Remedy by expatriation and commercial divorce. The path to remedy includes divesting from all commercial and religious contracts that bind the individual to the Jezebel system. This involves formally repudiating Social Security, driver's licenses, and state contracts while reclaiming assets and identification through instruments recorded under Admiralty jurisdiction. A green identification card is referenced as a symbol of sovereign status. Footnote: Remedy is contingent upon voluntary expatriation from the fraudulent system and the re-establishment of lawful status under Admiralty. 10. The legal metaphor of walking on water. Walking on water, in the legal context, is described as metaphor for rising above commercial jurisdiction and operating in just commerce under Admiralty. Baptism is framed not merely as a religious rite, but a legal act of anointment as a vessel. The ability to walk on water is reserved for those who have perfected their legal instruments and understand the equitable nature of maritime law. Footnote: The phrase walking on water metaphorically represents the legal empowerment achieved through Admiralty remedy. Sections 11 to 100 continue in the same structure.